there, today I'm going to show you a few tips on mortising. I want to focus on the technique where you first remove the bulk of the waste with a tool like a drill, then go the rest of the way with chisels. This is really common for stuff like workbenches and timber framing that have large joints, but you can do it this way to make any size mortise if you don't have a mortise chisel. Fix the workpiece on the bench with the planed mortise perpendicular to the edge of your bench so that you can see down the length. This will make it easier to straighten up the sides of the mortise walls because you can sight down the front with a square. I've already marked out the mortise here, and now I'm going to bore out the bulk of this waste with a hand brace and auger bit. Using a drill or drill press also works fine, you just want a cut that doesn't lean to one side. The next step is to make it easier to get to the walls. Use a chisel to sever the fibers near the ends, taking just a little bit at a time. This makes it easier to pop out the waste wood on the walls. Don't be afraid to get fairly close here, especially if the mortise won't be showing. This chisel isn't wide enough to take out the full side at once. Instead of starting just anywhere, take a close look at the grain here on the face that we're cutting the mortise into. It's running in this direction that I've marked with the pencil. So what does that mean? When you push in the chisel, the wood will want to split out at each side of the chisel along that grain direction. Let's take a close look when I drive this chisel into the wood. Now notice how the split dug in towards the wall on the near side and away from it on the other side. You can use this to your advantage. If you start at the downhill side and work up, the fibers will want to pop out away from the mortise wall ahead of the chisel. Your chisel will not dig into the wall, and you'll end up with a cleaner cut in the end. This is the same basic principle as grain direction when hand planing. Even though this is efficient, don't try to pare right down to the line on a mortise wall in one shot. Start in moderation to confirm what you suspect about the grain direction and get a feel for the paring action. Hefty cuts will cause unpredictable tear out ahead of the chisel because the offcut will be more rigid. Aggressive cuts will also cause the chisel to mash away from the bevel into the wall's direction. So let's take out a little bit of the side starting on this end. Once you've taken a pass to get your bearings on a particular mortise wall, you'll find it easier to keep track of the other things that you need to do when chopping mortises, such as keeping your chisel square. When you've only got a little bit left to remove, you can take a final pass and pare right down at the mortise line. I found this technique especially useful in somewhat soft woods with really strong long grains, such as yellow pine and Douglas fir. Of course, we'd all like our grain to run perfectly straight and parallel to the mortise wall, but that's probably not going to happen unless, of course, your name is Peter Follinsby. For the rest of us, well, reading the grain will just have to do. Getting back to mortises, the one thing left to do is chop down the end grain at the sides of the mortises and get into the corners. I'm not going to go through the specifics here, but if you keep your chisel sharp and avoid chopping off too much at once, you won't get bogged down. This certainly isn't the only way to make a mortise. If you want to learn how to use a mortise chisel, a great resource is Wearing's Essential Woodworker. This has some really solid methods for dealing with tricky situations such as narrow stock and where two mortises come in from adjacent sides. But above all, remember that mortises need practice, whether you're doing them as I just showed or with a mortise chisel. So don't get freaked out if it takes a really long time to make them or if they don't quite come out the way you intended at first. Just keep at it and you'll get the hang of it.